Welcome to today's mini Stammtisch edition. Mini because today, as it so happens, just my colleague Chutney and I that are available for today's round, but at the same time that also gives us the opportunity and the flexibility to experiment a little bit. Having my own wine import company to me was always more than trying to sell wine. Wine to me is the vehicle to promote a lifestyle, to enjoy the lifestyle that I have grown to learn over the past, well, my entire life really, because I was born into the wine agency business through my father's activity back in Germany. So wine to me, part of the lifestyle, to enjoy life to me means good wine, good food, good company. Those are the ingredients that for me are essential to communicate and to promote that lifestyle. So what Chutney and I have come up with is because all of us, and when you have a keen interest in wine, to kind of experiment a little bit in the kitchen, whether on a professional level or hobby chef level, it goes hand in hand. So all of us are hobby chefs, some with a greater degree of skill than others. So what we, in order to ease into this idea, where we share with you what we're doing in our kitchen, how we plan meals, if we do plan meals, if it's spontaneous. So today we're starting out with a simple charcuterie board. We have 4 different cheeses. Coincidentally, it wasn't planned that way. They are all cow cheeses, but I tried to come up with representatives of the various styles. So we have a blue cheese, we have a hard cheese, we have a semi-hard cheese, and we have a soft cheese. In addition to that, there's a beautiful duck rillette. And in order to enhance all of that, Chutney, what did you come up with?
So today we're going to be making a black plum chutney. So it's kind of like a jam or a jelly you'd normally see on charcuterie, but it's a lot more savory, a lot more, I guess, kind of body to it, as your wine should be.
And for that, so it wasn't premeditated. The way I simply grabbed a few wines from my sample cellar, but I grouped them. So we will start out over here with the crispier, refreshing white wines. We have rosé wines, which really are normally a passe-partout for all kinds of wine and food pairings. We have medium-bodied white wines, fuller-bodied white wines, a sweeter style of white wine that should never be missing on a charcuterie pairing exercise. Going into lighter-bodied red wines, medium-bodied red wines, fuller-bodied red wines. So once we finished the chutney and we gave it a little bit taste test, then both Chutney and I will come up with our wine selections for the charcuterie board, and we'll see what the final result will be. Other than that, I hold it with the famous W.C. Fields, who said, "I always cook with wine. Sometimes I even put it into the food." So while we're busy preparing, we're going to enjoy a nice light Sauvignon Blanc on the crisper side, simply because the acidity will help us will help our digestive juices to get going and to wake them up. So we'll chat with you a little bit later. Cheers. All right, Chutney, let's get started. You got everything prepared and set up. I see some wonderful black plums. What else do we have?
This recipe calls for everything you can find at your local grocery store. So obviously our black plums, a white onion, some fresh ginger, fresh lemon, and then just kind of some small spices that you might find in even your pantry right now. Some cinnamon sticks, some mustard seed. If you don't have mustard seed, dry mustard works perfectly. Some brown sugar and some golden raisins.
Sounds yummy. So I actually, I had to pick up some things before you came, and just out of curiosity, I went to the deli section of my local supermarket store here, and looking at spreads and chutneys. The nice thing about doing it this way, I can guarantee you it's going to be a lot more economical, but the beauty is that you know what's going in it. If you look at the ingredients, you need a chemistry degree to understand what you're actually consuming, and this is a nice thing about the drink local, eat local idea. Get to know the people that are producing what you're consuming if you're not doing it yourself, and know the ingredients that you're using. So one medium-sized pot. Let's get cutting.
Yeah, so we're gonna start out by pitting and chopping up all of our plums and the onion as well. And as you're making this, kind of go at your own pace. This shouldn't be an intimidating recipe. And you know, I plan on making quite a lot of this, so I am using 4 plums. But if you know you're not gonna want that much or eat that much, kind of go at your own pace and figure out what it works for you and for your family that you're sharing this with, or friends.
What do you think the dominant flavor will be in this chutney, Sydney? Is it going to be the plum? Is it going to be the spices? And the nice thing there is you can adapt every recipe to your own personal liking simply by adjusting the amount of spice that you use or the kinds of spices that you use. For instance, one of my family's favorite Middle Eastern recipes asks for a certain spice mix that include things like cinnamon, allspice, and these are 2 spices that I personally do not enjoy. I like cinnamon, but not in savory dishes. So I came up with my own spice mix, and now with the result that they actually like my version better. Already beginning to think about which wine I'm going to pick.
I'm hoping that the mustard seed for sure will bring out something interesting amongst all that sweetness. We'd also have some apple cider vinegar, so it should add a bit of a tang to also pull away from that kind of jelly type aspect that you might expect from a chutney.
Well, great, because so when we think about cheese and wine pairings, the normal tendency is to go more into red wines, Cabernets, Merlots. In my experience, actually, I find that the majority of cheese out there work very, very well with white wines and rosé wines. And when you mention mustard seed or dry mustard spice, I do see some cinnamon here. So there's going to be some savory aspects and some sweet aspects, but in my mind right now, I'm looking more to the fresher side of things. Although anytime there's plum involved, or anytime there's something with duck involved, a wine from France, like a Beaujolais, is always a good choice. A Syrah is a good choice, or a wine from southwestern France, like a Cabernet blend or Merlot blend. So we do have these choices at our fingertips here today. It'll be fun to play around.
Yeah. So as Abraham was talking there, I just grabbed our ginger. And with the backside of my paring knife here, I'm just scraping away that kind of brown skin. And if you don't feel safe enough to use a paring knife, just use the back of a wooden, like a spoon or something, and just scrape that away until you see that flesh. And then we're also gonna chop that up. More smaller, you can use a grater as well to get that kind of small, almost paste-like substance to add into the pot here. Alrighty, so now that we have all of our ingredients either chopped up, measured up, and put into our one big pot, I'm just gonna add the last couple ingredients. So we have our 1 cup of golden raisins, a couple of cinnamon sticks here, and then just the lemon juice that we have left over. And now that we have everything in our one big pot, you're just gonna throw this on your stove at about medium heat. Have it kind of bubble around and boil for about 45 minutes or so. You're looking for basically something where when you scoop your wooden spoon in it, it doesn't immediately pull back. And that's when you know that you're ready to start jarring it up.
We're ready to dive into our experiments here. Prior to getting into that, from day one, so when I started Enotri 11 years ago, in collaboration with some chefs and with some cheese vendors here in both Edmonton and Calgary, actually started to assemble a wine and cheese pairing spreadsheet, which is now expanded into a charcuterie pairing spreadsheet. Just recently brought it up to date with our current wine selection, And each of our wines, there are some recommendations for charcuterie items, like meat items, as well as cheeses that are available at local vendors. So I normally work with a cavern in Edmonton and with Peasant Cheese down in Calgary. Wonderful people, beautiful selections, very passionate about what they do. So, and there are some recommended retail prices on this spreadsheet. Keeping in mind, this is just a guideline. Each retail store, they have their own way of marking up their wines. So I think this is a very useful and joyful tool. You can access it on our new website, carpevitae.ca, or one word, carpevitae.ca, and we invite you to have some fun with it. And keeping also in mind that these are our recommendations, you should always let your own palate and your own likes and dislikes be the compass of the decisions that you make. So, what wines did you choose, Sydney?
So I chose the Bologna from Casal di Giglio and the Moulin à Vent from Lucien Lardy. Honestly, I just really like these wines right now. This one might even just because at the time of us filming this, it is kind of cloudy outside and I'm hoping for that golden rays. But yeah, it's kind of just what I'm feeling right now, and I'm sure next time I make this, I'll feel something different, and then, whatever will go with anything I want, which is kind of nice.
Perfect. Actually, I feel quite confident about your selections. What I chose, the white wine is Chateau de la Montfrin à la Rêverie, meaning daydream. And it's a beautiful blend of Grenache Blanc and Roussanne from the southern part of the Rhone Valley. And for the red, I decided to go for the Neil Ellis Groene Kloof Syrah. So from the coastal region in South Africa. Both wines are from their respective medium sections, as is the Bologna. The Lucien Lardy Moulin à Vent would be from the lighter red wine section. But when it comes to charcuterie, especially when it comes to anything with plums, prunes, I think Beaujolais are a very, very good choice. For the white wines, both of us individually, we chose wines where the acidity is there, but it's maybe not quite as pronounced as in the crispier white selection. So Comté, 18 months old. We have the Saint Nectaire, Fourme d'Ambert from the Plum family, but very medium strength in terms of the blue flavor. Beautiful, just perfect temperature right now, slightly runny, Crémeux de Jura, and our Dark Criette, together with a beautiful dark plum chutney. Let's give it a shot. Any first impressions?
Very good. You almost have different spices coming out with the different cheeses and everything, which kind of makes it quite enjoyable. You almost get a different experience every time. And yeah, darker red, you definitely have more muted tones of the sweetness in the chutney, which is quite nice. So if you'd prefer that over intenser sweetness, it definitely is very good. Honestly, both match really well with it. I don't think there's no wrong way to go with something so simple as chutney.
That is true. Having said that, is what I find with the Syrah shows beautifully, but it doesn't really pick up the nuances of the black plum and some of the spices as I had hoped for. It's not struggling against each other, but there is also not the harmony that I expected. I just poured a little bit of the Moulin à Vent. I love it. So there's the plumminess of the Moulin à Vent. Also, I think vintage-wise, we're talking 2020 for the Syrah, and that should be a 2021. But also the vintage in South Africa, Southern Hemisphere, takes place 6 months before Europe, so really it is a year and a half older, more mature. The maturity shows rather well, but I would choose this one, let's say, for barbecue, with burgers. It will do tremendously well. With the blue cheese, it shows well. The chutney introduces another element. Like I said, it's not terrible, but the moulin à vent for me is showing, it's providing a better harmony to that experience versus the Syrah. What about the white?
I really like the bologna. It kind of brings out more of that, the cloves and even those golden raisins that are in there. I matched it with kind of the harder cheeses at the time, and I'm sure it'd be great with anything.
I have to admit, so almost similar with the à la Rêverie. The alcohol is a little bit overpowering with these combinations. 13.5%, and what do we have with the Bologna? Is it 12.5% or 13?
13.5.
Also 13.5. Interesting. But I believe when I tasted the wines as I opened it up, there was a freshness to the Bologna, which I think will match this combination rather nicely. Bologna, good choice. So 2-0 for Sydney today. But like I said, I'm not going to pour these wines out. It is delightful. The duck rillette is beautiful. Also works very well with the chutney. So with chutneys, you don't have to stick to one. With duck, anything with a cherry base, with cassis, it would work rather well. For the cheese as well, you can look into tomato, peppers maybe. Right? So well done. Thank you very much, Sydney. So this was episode number 1. Check it out. Send us some comments if you enjoyed it, or if you didn't enjoy it. Also let us know. That might give us some directions for the next ones. Cheers.